Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us here on what was supposed to be a very sunny day in the park, but looks like it's going to cooperate a little bit more for us now. The group in front of you is the Plumbers Union Brass, and the fun fact is we are neither a union or have anything to do with plumbing. But the name developed from a term we used to refer to ourselves as the Back Row Plumbers Union in the concert band. And there's a gentleman in the back corner here, Kevin Dunk, and there's a lot of plumbing going on up here. We are the original heavy metal band. The Plumbers Union Brass has only been in existence for about a year, but it's the continuation of a 4-decade-long event called the Big Brass Bash that would travel around the Pacific Northwest. And for 2 days a year, people from all over Washington State, Oregon, Montana, Idaho, and BC would get together for 2 days worth of rehearsals, culminating in a public performance that afternoon. So it's our pleasure to be here this afternoon to share our program with you. We hope you enjoy it. It's probably the first time you've ever seen a group of 26 tuba players all in one spot. I was just going to say that, but you have another opportunity almost every Christmas to see the Tuba Christmas perform. It's usually downtown, so keep your eye on social media for that. So with that, I ask you to welcome the Plumbers Union Brass to perform under the direction of Scott McInnes.
Thank you. Thanks for that introduction, Sam. We're going to get right into things with what has become a tradition with this group over the last 40 years, and we're going to play both the American and Canadian national anthems. So please stand and join us with singing if you can, and if you can't sing, still do. If you can't stand, feel free to keep sitting. There's a critic in every crowd. What a sound, hey? Look out, hockey and football games, here we come. Baseball, it could be anything. The group that you see behind me is had many labels in terms of the type of group. So it's sometimes people call it a low brass choir, a tuba choir, a tuba and euphonium ensemble if they want to be really fancy. But whatever you like to call it, there are certain things that kind of features that make this instrument alike, or all these instruments alike here. And I'd like to just kind of point out some of these similarities, because I think it's really important to know what you're looking at when you're listening to this. So if you take a look at the instruments behind me here, you'll notice that they're all large. They all have that in common. Some are bigger than others, and we'll get into that. But they all are large, and therefore they play low. These are all low brass instruments, and they play in the kind of baritone to bass range. They all have a mouthpiece that they blow into to make the sound. They all have a bell that helps project the sound, and they all have valves that change the length of tubing that changes the sound. These all are the similarities, but after the next piece, I will give you a chance to tell me if you see any differences between the instruments that you see behind me. Up next, we're going to have an operatic work. No, don't leave. If you don't like opera, you probably don't realize that you do like opera. Because opera has phenomenal music. Sometimes it can get a little bit long, yes, but don't worry, we're gonna do like 2 minutes max today kind of thing. Rimsky-Korsakov actually wrote this next piece as an introduction to the second act of his opera Mlada. The opera has definitely faded into obscurity, but the procession of the nobles has remained popular with bands, orchestra, and even brass ensembles because of its triumphant proclamations and lush tonalities. So please enjoy Procession of the Nobles. So just out of curiosity, whose first tuba concert is this? All right, so you just heard more notes in that last piece than you've ever heard a tuba play before in your entire life, I'm sure. I want to take this moment before I move on to what the differences are between the instruments behind me and just quickly mention, I don't know if you caught it in Sam's introduction or if you were just a little late missing the introduction, but this group got together for the first time. Technically, we got together and we had a barbecue over there on Friday night. The first time we ever played a single note together was Saturday morning, and then we were putting on the concert today. So, yeah. So please excuse our one or two wrong notes here and there. So, did anybody notice any differences in the instruments behind me here? What I hear, I heard somebody silver, so there's different colors back here, definitely different colors. So all the instruments behind me here are brass instruments. They are all made of brass, but the instruments have different colors and coatings on them for different colors to the sound, interestingly. So usually silver is a brighter sound, and the yellow brass or red brass is even darker sounding. So that's why we have different colors. Any other differences you can see behind me here? There's a guy hitting stuff over there, did you notice? I want to give a shout out to our non-tuba player on the stage, Gary. I told him he's allowed to hit anything except for people. So we won't focus on the difference between brass and percussion right now, although I did just give you a hint. You hit stuff in percussion. There are different valve types on these instruments. So in the front row here, you'll notice all of them have what are called piston valves. So they kind of look like what you'd find in a car that goes up and down, pistons. But we also have rotary valve tubas, or baritones here, if you want to hold that up, that are sideways. And so they actually go to a valve that rotates as opposed to going up and down, which is somewhat slightly faster, but has there's pluses and minuses to both. You'll also notice the size, or wait, let's do this one first. The bell direction. So the bell is the thing that the sound kind of gets projected by. Some of them go this way, some of them go that way, and some of them go this way. I don't think there's any that go backwards. And that's just a kind of a personal preference thing. A lot of the times, if they have the valves on the front, they end up going that way, and if they have the valves on the top, they end up going that way just for ergonomics. Also, the size. So the size is different and this is where it gets really confusing, and I'm not going to bore you with all of the tuba depths. But the size are different both in terms of length and in terms of the girth, or what we call the bore size in the biz. So there's B-flat tubas. Do we have a B-flat tuba we can hold up? So B-flat is the longest instrument. The longer they get, the deeper the sound gets. So a tuba that size, a B-flat tuba, is exactly the same length as a B-flat euphonium, except half. So this is half the length of that one, if that makes sense. So they're just miniature versions of each other. Then there's C tubas. Anybody have a C tuba with them? So that's slightly shorter, but you can tell some of them still have, they look bigger, but they're shorter actually in length. And then we have E flat tuba, getting smaller, and F tubas, even smaller again. So each of those actually, when they play their instrument without pushing anything down, have different pitches that they start on. And I'm not going to go into all of it, but you can tell it gives us different colors. Even in euphonium and baritone, there's euphoniums and baritone horns, and in fact, there's even an instrument which we thankfully don't have on stage today called a sousaphone. You've probably heard of it before. Yeah, it was created by a gentleman in the Sousa band, J.W. Pepper, in 1893, because Sousa wanted the sound of the tuba to travel over the entire band. So it actually wraps around the player, and then the bell comes out over top, and so you've probably seen these in marching bands and things like that. We don't have any today, which I'm okay with. I actually played one for a little bit, and we have Tuba Christmas in Victoria, and I brought one to Tuba Christmas one year, and I played it, and I got in a lot of trouble. That is not a tuba, I was told. So the next week next year I showed up with a different instrument. Anyway, we're going to continue on because the reason I mentioned sousaphones is we're going to continue on with a Sousa march. When I was thinking about putting together this program, I thought we need something for the park, and what says park in the summer like a Sousa march. But I didn't want to give you guys the standard Liberty Bell or the Semper Fi or any of those ones that you actually would know. I wanted to make sure I like pushed the limits just a little bit. So this is a piece called The Belle of Chicago, and he wrote it as a salute to the ladies of Chicago. Unfortunately, it was not well received. Some of the protests in the newspaper after it was released were Mr. Sousa evidently regards the Chicago Bell as a powerful creature with swinging stride of a giant, the voice of a foghorn, and feet like sugar-cured hams. Well, let me tell you, he originally wrote it for band, so if you think it sounds like that for band, it's definitely going to sound like that with a whole bunch of tubas and euphoniums. Enjoy the Belle of Chicago. I didn't think it sounded that mean. So like the last piece by Sousa, the next piece was also meant to be played outdoors, although I'm pretty certain that, that George Frederick Handel would not have imagined this with the instruments that I have behind me, playing this in the 1700s. After that, we were going to fast forward all the way to the end of the 1700s with a pretty little tune that you undoubtedly are familiar with. So we're going to do 2 tunes in a row so you don't have to listen to me chattering between each. I did enough of that on the last one. One's written by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and it's a beautiful, beautiful hymn that I'm sure you'll recognize, so I'm not going to tell you what it is. And before that, we're going to play the Allegro from Handel's Wassermusik, or water music. I had a teacher who used to say, if you don't like that, you don't like music. That's how I feel about that piece. I hope you liked it as much as I did. That was Mozart's Ave Verum Corpus. Beautiful, beautiful arrangement done by local tubist, who unfortunately couldn't join us today, but local tubist and music store owner Dave Sabarin. He plays in the opera here. We've come to the end of our first half. So our first half, you may have noticed, had one march, and the rest of it was pretty much all classical stuff. After this piece that we're going to play for you, we're going to take about a 10-minute break, and then we're going to come back and we're planning to play maybe one more classical piece for you. And everything else is going to be a lot more toe tapping and a lot of fun, so please stick around. Up next, you may be surprised to know this, or maybe you figured it already, that the music that we play in this ensemble, a lot of it wasn't originally written for tuba choir. I mean, if Mozart was smart, he would have written it for tuba choir, but he's clairvoyant, yeah, he saw the tuba in his future. So we're gonna do this arrangement of this really cool tune called the Battle Song, or the Schlachtlied, that was originally for two different choirs of two tenors and bass in each choir. So a men's choir times two, basically. And you'll hear the two choirs battling back and forth. And thankfully, they all come together at the end, and it's a happy ending. Spoiler alert. The second half, we are also going to play some original tunes that were actually written for the tuba, so I highly recommend you stick around for that. So up next, we've got this Schubert Battle Song. Then we're going to tiny break, and then we'll be right back. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you during intermission. Please come say hi. We sign autographs, that whole thing. I told you, always a critic in the audience. I hear a baby crying back there somewhere. Welcome back. Thanks for sticking around for the second half of the Plumbers Union Brass Bash. That's really hard to say in a row. The composer of that last tune was Lenny Niehaus. He was an American saxophonist that was well known around the West Coast jazz scene. In addition to playing with the Stan Kenton Orchestra, Niehaus also did TV and film composing, and mostly for actually Clint Eastwood tunes. And I don't know about you, but there's a couple spots in that where I felt like I should be overdubbing, and now introducing. You know, it just has one of those feels to it, of opening a TV show in the 70s or something like that. That tune was actually written originally for the tuba ensemble, which is, you know, that's something new for us up here. In fact, the piece was called Tubalation, which we decided should be switched to Tubanation, maybe. Up next, we are going to feature yet another tune written originally for the tuba ensemble, except this time we're actually going to play something for you that was originally written by one of our members. Mike Rosbarsky and his wife Deb have actually come all the way from Missoula, Montana. Where they actually helped host this event last year, where we attended. And Mike is an absolutely wonderful composer that has written a prolific amount of repertoire for this type of ensemble because he understands it, because he can actually play it. And so he has very graciously given us this piece to perform for you. He tells us that when he originally wrote this piece, he couldn't come up with a name for it. He had this kind of idea in mind, and he wrote the piece. And then he sent it to a colleague of his that teaches at a university and or college in the States, and immediately the guy responded and said something about glacier lights, and it fits perfectly. So this is entitled Glacier Lights, and I feel like that you'll hear the unique voicings and colors that bring the glacier lights to life. Isn't that cool? I'm cold now. Up next, the composer wrote quite a few different movies. You probably have heard of Breakfast at Tiffany's before? Yeah, we're not going to play the music from that. Up next, we're actually going to play a tune that I would love for you guys to snap along with. You'll catch on real quick. 2 and 4 only, please. And if you don't, I'll help you out. This is the Pink Panther. The snapping was a 2-part test. One that was a test for you, like how long would you do it for, and B, whether you do it at all, and C, would you do it on 2 and 4? So that was your test, and you passed with flying colors. Thank you very much. The second part was whether or not they play quiet enough that I could actually hear you snapping. We're getting there. Up next, we're going to do a really short little tune. I did this arrangement a little while ago for a very special event, and I'm assuming, is there anybody in the audience who might have a birthday around this time? Yes? Today, by chance?
No, Friday.
Friday, okay, perfect. This one's gonna go to you too. We're just gonna put it out to there to all the July babies here. I had the entire day spent with these lovely people behind me rehearsing all day, and yesterday was my wife's 40th birthday. Evidently, I'm told I'm walking home now. So I did this quick little arrangement to try and help celebrate and maybe make some amends and let her know that I love her. And then we're gonna do Brazil. And Brazil is a cool little tune, and I'm gonna remind our two players behind me here that at the very end, I like to think of somebody, and I'm not gonna name names, but I like to think of somebody kind of walking across the stage and then walking away, and then when they get to the other side of the stage, then they peek back out. I want you to thinking about that at the very end. So there's somebody walking by and they're just kind of disappearing, and then they make just like that last second, no, I'm not really gone. This is Happy Birthday, feel free to sing along, and then Brazil. Can you just picture it? Maybe it's just me. All right, we're gonna play a little Guess That Tune. This is probably too easy for you because you look like a very intelligent group because you're at a tuba concert. Nobody? Okay. All right, here are your clues. It's an Irish folk tune. So it narrows down a little bit, yeah. It's a victory song sung at Northern Ireland sporting events. Anybody yet? No? Did I heard somebody said something about a butt somewhere. Derriere? Somebody got it already. It's from the county Londonderry and otherwise known as Danny Boy. Enjoy. Not a dry eye in the house. Okay, this is fun. This is really fun. I didn't actually know this when I picked this piece, so I'm going to admit some ignorance, but since I found this out, I need to share it with you. So up next is originally a piece written for piano by the same composer that wrote The Entertainer and The Maple Leaf Rag. Those are the kinds of pieces that people immediately associate with the name Scott Joplin, that kind of like happy-go-lucky ragtime feel. But the next piece in the program is actually, it's a little different than his normal ragtime ditties. Originally, it was dedicated to M, K, and T, R, Y. And I don't know about you, but I had no idea what that means. And I don't know if anybody else on stage knows the story, but I looked it up, and it stands for the Missouri, Kansas, and Texas Railway, which actually runs through Temple in Texas and crosses the tracks of another line. And the story goes that this is awesome, that in the 1890s, the railway was in financial trouble. They hired a man named William George Crush, best last name for this moment ever, and he was hired to help save the railway. He came up with this plan to have a town, which was eventually dubbed Crush, the name of the town, and it was built to have 2 train engines charge at full steam at each other. I kid you not. The event was free, but you had to pay $2 to get there on the train. Because Crush was only accessible by the train. So 40,000 people went to this event and paid $2 each in 1896. So $80,000 minimum they made in 1896. So they had this event where they were taking a train that was this shiny red train and a train that was this shiny green train and a length of track, and they were just going to run them at each other. What could go wrong? So, on September 15th, 1896, in Crush, Texas, again, best name for this ever, there was a bright green engine and a bright red engine at approximately 45 miles per hour, rushing towards each other. The resulting collision caused both locomotives' boilers to explode, sending shrapnel into the crowd and killing at least 3 people. We're not actually certain whether or not Scott Joplin attended this event, but he definitely heard about it, at the very least. Because about 30 days later, he copyrighted this tune that we're going to play for you called The Great Crush Collision March. And you'll no doubt hear the engine chugging along and then crashing. But hopefully nobody gets injured at this event. Anybody hurt? I definitely heard a giggle where we figured out where the crash happened. But you could hear in the low two was that there was like this ominous thing coming, and then the whistle bleep 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 in the euphonium. It's just great. It's fantastic. That has to be on every year. They're not coming back again. All right. Do we have any Monty Python fans in the audience? Excellent. You need to leave now. I'm kidding. I was actually speaking with Sam, the gentleman who organized this whole event. Let's give Sam a hand. You got a bunch of plants in the audience, don't you? No, he deserves that huge applause. This was not exactly an easy thing to put together, as you might imagine. You've heard of herding cats? Well, this is harder. No, we really appreciate you putting all the time and effort into this, and he's not wrong in saying that there is an event that also happens in a time that's less nice out, where you can come and hear some tubas play Christmas music in town here and in Victoria and all over the place. But this event started almost 40 years ago with a gentleman that started Tuba Christmas. And from my understanding, he basically was like, why do we get together in the crappiest month and play outside when we can get together also in July? So that's when this started happening, and I'm glad it happens, and it wouldn't happen without Sam. So let's give him another applause. Back to my story. Sam and I were having a discussion about how if there was a Venn diagram, one of those things that has like, one thing and another thing and how they cross over, that was Monty Python and tuba. They'd pretty much be on top of each other. There's a lot of, it's almost like Star Wars and tuba, like they seem to go together a lot. We will not be playing any Star Wars today. You'll have to come to next year's show for that. But we will play a Monty Python tune for you. I decided that this would be a really fun tune. It was suggested by a couple people behind me, and so I did this arrangement. It was originally sung from a cross at the end of Life of Brian by Eric Idle. And if you know the words, please sing along. If you don't know the words, you should also sing along. This is Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. Can we also, now that I'm thinking about it, give the people behind me that aren't Sam, I guess Sam can also get this because he's playing, a huge round of applause for putting their whole weekend in to make this free concert happen for you. They like it. I think the furthest person is from Missoula, am I correct? And the closest person lives in New Westminster. But we come from all over the place. I don't think I even introduced myself. My name's Scott McInnes, and I'm the trombone and low brass teacher at the University of Victoria. So I'm just over from the island. But we also have a teacher here from University of Washington, Dr. Chris Dickey. Sorry, Washington State University. See, I don't know enough about. That's supposedly the worst thing I could have done. Yeah, I'm definitely fired. We were gonna host it at his place next year, but now I'm just fired. So that's Dr. Chris Dickey in the back there. We've got, I'm not gonna go through and introduce everybody, but you get the gist. We've got this huge abundance of people, which is fantastic. But what we would love is for it to actually be, 90 or more. So if you have any friends that play tuba or enemies that play tuba, send them our way. We'd love to play with them. Would you like to hear one more tune?
Yeah.
That's good, because that's all we have left. We're gonna squeeze in one more Sousa March, and this became a final piece tradition at the Bash, because it takes the famous piccolo part from the Stars and Stripes Forever and gives it to the instrument that's at the opposite end of the spectrum. So you'll hear some tuba players join me up at the front here, playing the piccolo part on the big tubas. It's pretty impressive that they can be just as nimble as this thing that's only this big. Thank you so much for being here, to you. Why don't you give yourselves a round of applause too, because this is not a concert without an audience. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in 5 years or so. No, thank you so much for being here, and please check out the Plumbers Union on plumbersunionbrass.com online. And you can follow us all over the place, and you can come and travel with us to these exotic locations like Missoula, Montana. Thanks so much. Please enjoy Stars and Stripes Forever, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks again. As they say, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Thanks very much. See you next time.